Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome along to American Truck Simulator once again. Today we are in Kayenta and we're heading over to what I think is a Walmart. And of course we're leaving the wrong way because, hey, it's me, why not? No, it's a farming place. I don't even know what this place is called. I just know it as the farming place. S Crops? Okay. We have over here a World of Trucks contract, which is why it's already marked on the map. And we are going to be heading over to Page. Now, I am a bit stuck for time today because it's currently 3 o'clock on, well, yesterday afternoon. And I am way behind where I need to be right now. I don't even have yesterday's video uploaded at the moment. I should probably have started doing that before I started with this, but oh well, it's too late now. I'll start uploading that when I start the stream, I guess. Or before I start the stream, immediately once I've got this video done. This, some of you may be glad to hear, will be, fingers crossed, the last video where I'm using the D-pad on the G27 to change the views, I guess. And there's a very good reason for that. It's because my track hat's here. It's the reason I'm not using it right now is because I wasn't awake when, well, I was awake but I didn't get out of bed when the post arrived this morning. The postman came at like 9:30 this morning and I heard the knock on the door and assumed it was just some like door-to-door dude. Then I heard the little piece of paper they use. I heard that being pushed through the door and I was just kind of laying in bed thinking, ah, nuts. I'm gonna have to wait now. So there will probably be a part of yesterday's stream where I'm looking over to the side and being handed something and then start unpacking the track hat. It is in town. It is in my town. I know this much. It's just not with me yet. So hopefully we'll get the debut of track hat technology and head tracking technology in the stream tomorrow. That's my hope, and you never know what'll happen, I guess. It does prove the track hat is a real company, at least, which was a bit of a concern for me. It's 35, I'm going 36, and I'm having eyesight issues. Why is the 35 limit extending all the way out here? This seems a bit excessive. And into a 40? What the heck? Okay. Why are they gradually ramping up the speed limit here? What? Is this going to be a sign saying like 65? Yes, it is! Well, okay. I guess I can deal with that. I'm going to need to put on my glasses for the stream, I think. Because I am having major issues seeing. And the reason I'm recording this before the stream yesterday is because I had plans last night and I kind of know recording this that I need to get everything done early-ish because everything's going to be a bit mental tonight for me. In a good way, good mental, not bad mental. So there's, come on 65. There's 65, we'll throw on cruise control and cruise along the road here to Page. So while we're cruising here, I want to talk about, because this is a driving video, I want to talk about Le Mans, or Le Mans, or whatever you want to call it, and the 24-hour race. Because, oh my god, I am so glad that I stayed up for the full 24. I don't regret one bit cancelling the streams over the weekend and saying, no, I won't be here this weekend. I'm going to be watching something that I enjoy. I'm going to take a weekend off, and hopefully you can hear I'm a bit more energetic. So, the 24 hours. It started off behind the safety car because there was rain that threatened the first ever red flag at Le Mans. The first ever. It was the 87th running, or the 84th running, or something like that. Almost 90 years. And this is a race that had the that has the dubious distinction of being, you know, the site of the 1955 Le Mans disaster, where something like 81 spectators were killed by a car flying into the crowd. Truly horrific. That wasn't a red flag incident. They just threw yellows in the area for a while. It's a race that has had multiple fatalities, unfortunately, and regularly has rather large incidents that require safety cars for 2, maybe even 3 hours. If there's a particularly bad issue with the Armco barriers and the and the track. And it's happened before that they've had a red flag or a yellow flag and safety cars for multiple hours. In fact, I believe one year the safety car had to be replaced because it had run out of fuel. And wow, we're almost in Page. But just to give a quick rundown of the finish, because that was one of the most insane finishes of any race I've ever seen. With 5 minutes remaining, the number 5 Toyota, the lead car, position 1 on the track, had an issue. And it was running very slowly. And, you know, at that point you kind of think, if this is an issue now, that car's either not going to finish or have a very, very tight run to the finish. It stopped just after the line with 3 minutes to go. So it had already started what would have been the final lap. It was stopped. The number 2 Porsche, which was the Porsche that didn't have an incident, the number 1 had a major incident earlier, so we were using that as a testbed car for the rest of the race to check out changes they wanted to make and whatnot, see how they worked. That came around, took the lead, went on to win it. The number 5, just to continue on the number 5 thing, because that's kind of the more important story of the finish, believe it or not. Not that Porsche won, but that Toyota lost. And I'm amazed I'm saying Toyota and not Peugeot, because I keep forgetting, for whatever reason, I keep forgetting that it's the Toyota team, not the Peugeot team. Or Peugeot, or whatever you want to call it. Is this where I'm delivering to? I'm gonna get stuck. No, I'm not. I have no idea how I'm gonna get this thing in there. But the number 5 did complete the final lap of the race. So, you know, it finished the race. But there is a very specific rule in Le Mans. And it's there for a good reason, and I've accidentally engaged the parking brake there. It's there for a very good reason. Now, in the past, up until a few years ago, you could take essentially as long as you wanted to do your final lap. That sounds perfectly fine. I mean, why should there be a time limit? Well, there's a time limit because there is a very old tradition. And it is a very old tradition at Le Mans. That if the car is damaged essentially beyond repair but can do one more lap, if the car has one lap left in it, whether it's, you know, the engine's going to completely self-destruct after a lap, or, you know, it's not safe to drive, sometimes at all. It has happened that completely unsafe and unfit cars have finished the race, because one rule at Le Mans is if you don't finish the final lap, you don't finish the race. So cars would go out and do the final lap incredibly slowly, anything up to 10 or 15 minutes for the final lap. And the organisers, because it's 90% of the track is public roads, the organisers weren't best pleased at this, due to, you know, the roads open literally about 10 minutes after the race finishes. And it's not uncommon to see the cool-down lap happening and suddenly a van appears on track because the public road is reopened. Or, you know, the cool-down lap is just finished and there's a van and a lorry waiting to get onto the track, effectively. I don't know how I'm going to park this thing. I'm taking over the entire road, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to do this. Sorry, everybody, sorry. I'm Canadian now, deal with it. But the Toyota, number 5, did not complete the lap in time. Now, there is a specific time they have to do the final lap, and it's about 6 minutes. The number 5 Toyota was stopped for about 3 minutes, so it would have had to do a full speed racing lap to be classified as finishing the race. Now, due to the damage that it had, that just wasn't possible. I don't know if I can even get this thing turned around. Due to the damage the car had, it just wasn't possible for it to do a full speed lap, so I believe it took about 8 minutes to complete its final lap. As a result, the car was effectively disqualified. It was not classified for points because of the minimum speed rule, or maximum lap time rule even. It's something that I think some more races should get in. Although 24-hour races, you know, the entire thing is that you finish the race. Sometimes cars will still do the old tradition of, you know, we're finishing the race by hook or by crook. And I'm gonna really need to just take up this entire road, I think, to get this thing turned around properly. Okay, so... Okay, here we go. Sometimes teams will just ignore that rule and say, oh, well, we crossed the line at the final lap, so it counts for us, or it's good for us, or whatever. They won't be classified as finishing because of that rule, but, you know, it's a thing. And as a result of that rule, there have been more retirements in recent years more cars classified as retired in recent years as there were in the past. But, you know, it's just kind of a safety thing almost. That if a car can't do a few laps at a good speed, it shouldn't really be racing in the first place. How am I honestly have no idea how I'm going to get this thing into position. Let's just let it cruise back and see if... Nope. Okay. Can I pull into that bay there? Actually, I'll put it into crawler gear because I don't want to go too quickly. Can I pull into this bay? I believe this is actually a parking spot for trailers, so I think the truck might be able to come in here. Yes. Good. Wonderful. It's struggling, but it's possible. Okay, good. But yeah, Le Mans ended in the most bizarre, spectacular way that I don't think anybody could have imagined. I mean, it started in a weird way with the safety cars out, and all 3 were deployed shortly afterwards because cars were going in to change tyres, because the track was starting to dry out a bit, and cars decided, you know what, we'll forego our ultimate wets and go to just very wets, because the cars do have, I believe it was said at one point that 1 or 2 teams had upwards of 18 different compounds of tyres available to them, and all the tyres are made specifically for the cars. It's not like Formula 1 where there's a control tyre. It is the case that, you know, the Michelin tyres that are on the Toyota are completely different from the Michelin tyres that are on the Audi or the Porsche prototypes. That is legitimately a thing. And I am not intentionally dragging out this parking job. I am trying to get it done efficiently. It's just not working because of the tight space I'm kind of stuck in. That's not gonna work, is it? Wait, no, it can work. Because if I straighten out and just kind of power back like this, I'll hit a lamppost. Lovely. But now I've got space where I can just do a super tight turn, or as tight as the truck will allow me to, and make extra room to reverse. Good, lovely. But yeah, Le Mans has some rules that people who watch like Formula 1 will find a bit strange, like the maximum final lap time. Like you have to do 70% of the leader's distance, regardless of whether or not you cross the line at the end, to actually be classified. And obviously the actual crossing the line at the end thing. The old rules were intended for, you know, cars if they broke down, because you're not allowed to do engine changes or gearbox changes, or entire rear end replacements, which Audi did one year because they were exploiting a loophole. That was a fun year. Audi literally just had, I think it was the gearbox or something, built in and as a legitimate part of the rear end of the car. So they needed a gearbox change, so they just took the entire rear assembly of the car off so they could do it. Oh my god, am I gonna get this thing parked now? I don't know if I can get straightened up in time, but if I can get it back far enough, I can pull forwards again and do that same trick. But yes, Le Mans has some odd rules, such as, you know, you have to cross the finish line to be classified as a finisher. You have to have a certain minimum lap or a certain maximum lap time to be classified as a finisher. And that's only for the final lap. You can go slowly throughout the rest of the races you like. You can do 6 laps in the entire... Well, I guess the distance to the lead car rule kind of means that you can't go as slowly as you like, unless you are in what is known within the Le Mans community as the Garage 56 entry, which is the experimental entry. And this year was a doozy. The last few years, if you watch IMSA racing, you might have heard of the Nissan Delta Wing. That was originally a Le Mans prototype that was running under Garage 56 rules, which are essentially, you tell us what you're doing, we'll give you your own class, but there will only be one car in your class and you won't be eligible for any points, because it is in theory a World Endurance Championship race still, and they don't want to be screwing around with the championship too much by having like random experimental cars. This year's Garage 56 entry was a modified LMP2 prototype. So far so good. You know, it's just a modified car. But it was modified for a very specific use. Because while 2 of the drivers of it were completely what you would describe as normal racing drivers, you know, professional racing drivers who I am so tempted to just give up this parking job because I don't think it's possible for me to do it. Okay, let's try a different angle. 2 of the drivers were what you would describe as normal racing drivers, professional, you know, normal, just professional racing drivers who day in day out race, you know, random cars, usually LMP2s or LMP3s. But the 3rd driver, normally a driver change will take about a minute because you got to get the one guy out, the other guy in, and get him strapped in, and you know, all the normal stuff that you'd expect in a race with multiple drivers. The 3rd driver took about 5 to 10 minutes to get in and out of the car, because the car had to be brought back into the garage to allow as many hands on it as needed. In normal circumstances, it is, I think, 2 people are allowed to touch the car at any given time in the pit lane, unless apart from the driver's helper, who will be swapping fluids in the car and usually like helps the driver in and out in a driver change. The Garage 56 entry, the 3rd driver had no arms and no legs. He was a quadruple amputee. So the 56 entry I think it was the 84 car in the race. Because the teams are allowed to essentially choose whatever number they like. Aston Martin traditionally have the 007 because James Bond. And I honestly don't know, I can't recall there being a 007 car this year. There were plenty of Aston Martins toddling about. And one or two prototypes that were mentioned far more than they should have been. Because they had this amazing habit of falling off the track at Mulsanne Corner. Just throughout the race, cars would drop off Mulsanne for some reason. And that's the really tight corner after the straight with the two chicanes, for those of you who don't understand the corner names at Le Mans, which I don't honestly expect everybody to understand corner names and that sort of stuff. But they kept like out-braking themselves, locking up the wheels, locking up the tyres, and having issues at Mulsanne Corner. And one of them ended up catching fire because of the damage they managed to get by straight lining Mulsanne Corner, which, if you watch the videos I've made on the 24-hour circuit, that's not exactly a corner that you can try and straight line. It's about a 70 or 80 degree corner, maybe even 90 degrees, and it's one that you want to be taking slowly. It's actually probably slightly more... No, it's more than 90 degrees, because you then get thrown onto the back straight. Yeah, it's more than 90 degrees. Like 110 or so, so it's a bit of a hairpin at the end of this super long straight. Intentionally designed as such. Because Le Mans is intended to test cars to their absolute limits. And I'm using the mirrors to reverse here just because I can. And because I don't want to be switching back and forwards between views. I think we're good here. But yeah, one of the cars that kept straight lining Mulsanne finally fatally straight lined at the end of its race and caught fire on the back straight. Actually, I think it was after Arnage, the straight after Arnage, that it caught fire heading towards the Porsche curves. Yeah. But Le Mans was... I'm so glad that I took the 24 hours to watch it. Although I was falling asleep very early on Sunday. So that's our job done here. 110 miles in 23 minutes, which is far too slow. We got 1.4 damage on the trailer because of all the shunting we're doing with it. $2,300 and 163 experience. That's not enough to overcome our debt, unfortunately. We got $19,000 in debt, so I'll be pushing for a long journey, or a few long journeys in multiplayer tomorrow, hopefully with head tracking. So until then, I've been Rainbow Dave. I've said until then before I started the outro again. It's a weird habit I've got into of screwing up my own outro. I've been Rainbow Dave. You've been watching American Truck Simulator. Until next time, stay safe and goodbye.